fire test, or the fire test, a new fully themed 4D simulation experience perfect for the whole family. So please welcome the director of the Dutch Railway Museum, Paul van Vlijmen, and the project leader of the attraction, Evelyn Peterson. A huge round of applause for our Thea Award recipients. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am so honored to be here, part of your assembly, and I want to thank the board for giving us this very prestigious award. Thank you very much. The Dutch Railway Museum is in Holland, and I will guide you through a small idea about what we've done and what are we for. I presume that nobody has ever visited the Railway Museum, so let's start. We go through the doors of the Vuurproef, the test of fire. We go, entering the door, go to Europe, go to the Netherlands, go to the heart of the Netherlands, Utrecht, go to the heart of Utrecht, the Dutch Railway Museum. And there we enter in the huge old 19th century railway station building, of which we can have use now. And we have entered the whole museum as nostalgia, storytelling. That is what we do. In Holland, nobody is interested in technique, so we have to do it with storytelling and huge objects and subtle details. So you get nostalgia in the whole of the museum, and there you are expected by our colleagues, and you can buy a ticket on the old ticket office. And then we made in 2005, yes, a new building, and that was a main building for 14,000 square meters, and that was for trains. That is our main deal, trains. And I will tell you something about what we did. Here you see the map of the museum, and we try to tell stories. That's what I told you. We are telling them in different ways. We tell them with a headset. We tell them in theaters. We tell them in a dark ride. And we tell them by edu-trainers. And the name train is in capital. Here is number one. World number one. The start of the old steam engines. The invention in England, in Holland. And you go back in 1829 in a village in England, and you have a headset and you get a beautiful story about John Middlemith, the first engine driver ever, and he tells you about the secrets of the steam engines. Then we go on with number two. Then you see a huge theater, not huge, it's small. But for our scale, it's huge. 200 people, and that will do. And then you will meet our actors, and you have a beautiful play with riding Orient Express, and everybody's taken with the actor to the Orient. And when you are getting a bit tired, the first was walking around with headsets, the second one was already sitting in a theater, and then the next step will be yes. Oh, too much. Number three, a dark ride. And you can sit and you will be thrilled by driving under over old locomotives. And one of the 20 children gets out crying, that's enough. And then you go to the main hall with trains. That's what we do, I always told you. And we have edu-trainers like this, and he tells you, he opens locomotives. He has keys to every inch of the museum, and he can guide you through wherever you want. And then we had queue lines, and that was a great success because we never expected that. And in Holland, queue lines for a museum is not so usual. So we were very proud. And then we had the idea that, yes, no, not coming back. Here you see at the end of the venue, you see a little building, and that is outside the building. It's called the fire test. I will tell you a bit, but Evelyn will tell you more. This was a building from 1980s. It was awful. Once I decided to build this, but I was ashamed that I ever did it. And then we said, let's renew it in a new function, and let's take some parts which were very important. We had to do it within budget. Stop. Yes, in budget. And we did. 1.8 million euro, that means $2 million. We had to be accessible for all disabled and everybody. We did. And then we had the time as a schedule for realizing it, and we did that in time. And we had time because we needed to have 300 people every hour passing through, otherwise we couldn't manage the visitors. And we did. And then we took film, animation. That was only a small glance. I really must say, you must come yourself. And then, this is only the prelude of what we are doing, and Evelyn will tell you about the rest.
When we started this project in 2011, we only knew that we wanted to work with film, with movies, and we wanted to make a ride film. But that is, of course, not enough to create a complete experience. So we went for inspiration. We visited a lot of museums and amusement parks like Disney World and Universal Studios to discover how they tell their stories. And what we found out is that a good attraction is always composed, in our eyes, of several elements. And all the ingredients together intensify the experience. So what we had to do for the fire test, for our own experience, is to find out to choose the best ingredients and add them in the right amounts. So the first ingredient we choose for our attraction was the educational message. And the educational message, we focus on a few things. When the train started to ride in the 19th century, people were a bit afraid of it. The engine drivers were really seen as heroes and as a sort of, well, the astronauts of our time. And what we wanted to focus on is that the train changes the way people looked at distance and time. Distances became shorter, the world became smaller, and a central time system was introduced. The other thing we wanted to focus on was the differences between the train and other means of transportation. The train has no steering wheel, so the tracks determine its direction, and the engine driver is not able to avoid any obstacle on his way. So the educational message was very important. The building is divided in several parts, and the second ingredient we added to the fire test was the sequence in which we tell the story. In every part of the building, we tell one part of the story. To begin, in the waiting room. And this is a waiting room where people start the attraction, and it's stuffed with objects, and we let the people believe that they're gonna make a tour in our depot where all the museum objects are stored. The second part is the pre-show, where a narrator tells all about the changes caused by the train in the 19th century and until now. Then we have a little surprise, an unexpected twist, which is a very important element we added to the fire tests. Because in the third room, we call it an instruction room, the depot officer tells that she has something else in mind. Instead of visiting the depot of the museum, the people become part of railway history. And they make a ride themselves. They all become engine drivers. And for the first time in their life, they ride a steam engine. Then, in the next room, there are 3 locomotives. These are railway simulators. And they make a ride through different landscapes and different times. And then there is another small surprise in the story, because during the ride there's been taken a picture of the visitors and they get the instructions how to download it when they are at home again. Then another element of the fire test is good actors. And maybe you know this guy, I don't know if you know him, but in Holland he's very, very famous. It's Rutger Hauer. And maybe you know him of the Blade Runner and Blind Fury. And he is the narrator of the film, and we were very surprised that he said yes to our invitation to play this role. But he did. And as the depot officer, we have Nguyen Dam. She's a young actress, well-known of a popular Dutch television show for children. Then another element we added to the fire test was movement, motion. We really want the people to feel that they are in a riding train. And the first thing we thought about was real simulators with 3 or 6 degrees of freedom, but they were far too expensive for us. So we had to choose something else. And we have chosen for flight simulators. It's an off-the-shelf system, normally used for pilot testing. And they are composed of a big screen, 220 degrees, and they are normally suitable for 2 persons, but we made them suitable for 6 persons. So we have 3 simulators for 6 persons, 18 persons for each ride. And when you sit in these seats, you really have the feeling of motion, but we added something extra. We added, this situation we created, and we added something extra. We added D-box seats, our motion seats. Maybe you know them of the cinemas. And the 2 off-the-shelf systems really work well together, and our visitors really have the feeling of sitting in a riding train. So another element we added to the fire test was the interactivity. We really like it when you can do something in an amusement park, in an attraction. And so all the visitors get a role. They become engine drivers themselves, or assistants, or brakesmen, and they have to do everything during the ride. Push on the buttons and operate the speedometers, etc. And they really have the idea of influence. Of course, they haven't, because we hadn't the money to create more than 1 film scenario, but they all have the idea that they do something and they have influence on the ride. And that's more fun, really works fantastic. Then another element we added to the fire test was very, very important. It's the atmosphere, look and feel. We wanted to let the visitors feel them as 19th century engine drivers, heroes. So we added steampunk as our leading in the design. It's also 19th century futurism, so we thought that's a good atmosphere, and you can see that in every area of our building. We even added scents, and we added special effects and soundscapes in every area. So all the things, all the ingredients activate all senses of our visitors. To conclude this presentation, we would like to show you a short film we use as an invitation for the guest for the opening of the fire test in November 2012. And you see Paul. walking through all film sets and decorations of the fire test. And every guest got his own invitation with Paul saying his or her name in it, so it's totally personalized. We have no subtitles, but I think you will understand what we meant. And after that, of course, you have the opportunity to ask questions to us.
Hallo Aad. Eigenlijk had ik je willen bellen. Dat lukt niet. Dus wil ik je op deze manier uitnodigen om 21 november in je agenda te zetten. De opening van de Vuurproef. De nieuwe wereld van het Spoorwegmuseum. Hierin neemt Rutger Hauer ons mee op een reis door de spoorweggeschiedenis. Maar dat is pas het begin. In de Vuurproef gebeurt veel meer. Omdat deze belevenis absoluut baanbrekend is, moet je er gewoon bij zijn. Dus 21 november, 5 uur, Spoorwegmuseum.
If you have any questions, we lie and answer.
Could you talk a little bit about the different roles that you said guests have when they're riding the train?
Yes, they are engine driver, brakeman, assistant, and the second row of people has to push the called in Dutch the death button. Every time they hear a bell, let's push it. Otherwise, they will get an enormous disaster. And children are yelling to their dad and mom, "Do it!" Yes.
Why is it called fire test?
Why is it called fire test? In Holland, you have a word called vuurproef. And it is a kind of initial read. If you want to be a man, you have to drink alcohol or something. And if you've done that, you're a man. And we say it's also a fire test that if you want to be a real man, you must be an engine driver in a steam locomotive of which you don't know what will happen. You are braver after that. And we say we have huge shields with the do's and don'ts, and we have only don'ts. we don't have one do. Only you are not allowed. No, you must all the normal things, fog, motion, etc. And we say at the end, large logos: don't bring strollers, don't eat, don't drink, don't fart. And everybody sings, that's great. Everybody has the idea that you cannot fart because of the fire test. So, okay. Yes, please.
That looks really awesome. This whole thing is really cool. I'm curious who your partners were for scenic design and media and production.
Again, my English is so awful.
I'm sorry, my Dutch is even worse. Who were your creative partners in scenic design and media production?
Yes.
We have, for film, we have worked with a film director. It's a Dutch studio called Illuster, and he made the live action films. And we have also an animation film, and that's made by House of Secrets. It's also a Dutch company. So.
And
really
it was their
did a good
first
job.
time ever. We had only starters, you could say. The new gen.
Thank you. So, in museums, you always have a rotating gallery, a visiting gallery. What would be the reason people would come back to your exhibition or your museum? Is there something that you would be continuously working on, or is it?
Yes, we have some elements which are always to be visited. The lands number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we have always events. For example, we have the Chuckington event, we have the Thomas the Tank Engine event, we have markets, we have a huge winter station, and then you can have skates on in the museum. We have a huge ice area, and everything is Christmas time and music, and so we have a lot of extras for people, and they always come back, and they come back with children from 4 to 12 years, and then hormones start and they don't go to museums, and then they go to theme parks or thrill, and people, I always say that if you go to the museum for the first time, everybody has forgotten it. But there are so many people who never went to a museum ever. And they come and they are as anxious as people who are going to the sauna for the first time. You are completely naked and you think, 3 doors, which do I have to choose? That one is on the main square, that one is etc. And people who go for the first time to a museum, they have the ideas about the films they've seen, the movies in which laser lights, the Pink Panther, or don't even think of touching this. And that's the reason that we say, if you have hospitality, you are nice to the people, and you put them at ease, they will come back. And 60% of our visitors comes back in 2 years. So we are only needing for new visitors.
Yeah, you mentioned a $2 million budget. Was that overall for design and production?
Everything.
Wow.
Every inch. But that is also a reason that we have a very creative team our own. We are with 5 people here, and I'm so proud of them because they all have a genius way of thinking, working, dealing with, and they are never bored, never angry, and I love my staff. But it's not much, I must say, 2 million.
Check. How do you have ticketing work at the museum? Do you have season passes, or is it a one day?
Sorry? Yeah. You buy, yes, in Holland we have a very difficult system. You have a museum card, and for $52 you buy a card in which you have free entrance for 500 museums. Wow. And that is a very popular card, because I think that about 30% of the complete population has a card. And you can get only 30% of your general income for that. So you need a lot of new visitors. They pay the whole price. And you can never have a year pass or something like that, because it's always more expensive than the museum card. And I'm sitting in the board of the museum card, so I hope nobody in Holland hears this. But and there is another thing. I have the idea that in Holland culture must be for free. And I have the idea that you must pay for everything that is valuable. And I'm so proud of what we are doing that you have to pay. Never for free, never.
When it comes to the, over here.
Oh, yes.
When
Sorry.
it comes to the history part, which is the main body of a museum, are you talking more about railways and history for Europe, or do you segue into worldwide history, say Vanderbilt, J.P. Morgan?
More worldwide. We start in England, of course, but America was only a few months later, so it's also about America, about whole railway history. Yeah.
And also the golden spike.
But it's only in 3.5 minutes, so it's very fast.
200 years, the whole world in 3.5 minutes. Yes, please.
Do you have a sense of the relative guest appeal of the attractions, the special effects, the theatrical presentations versus the actual trains?
Difficult question. I don't think so. That's a Joe Brody question. Yes? Oh, must get used to it. No, I don't think so. No, I look at my colleagues who know everything about the visitors. No, we talk with them and we ask them questions, and that's more. I don't know. They like trains in a way, but they want to have a day out. So
Paul?
Yes.
Here, I can say something about it.
Okay, my colleague Sandra.
Hi, I'm from marketing, so. We asked the public what they think of the museum, and they tell us that they really like it. They give us something about an 8.5 on a 10 scale. And they don't separate between the different objects or the different attractions that we have. So they always tell us that they come for the museum as a whole, the trains and the attractions or the events. So we can't say anything about the comparison between the two.
I love that you brought interactivity into the entire production, and I'm kind of wondering what, especially that it's communal and everyone's working together. That's great. I'm wondering what sort of feedback do you have, depending on whether they do it well or do it poorly? Does the ride speed up, slow down, lights flashing, nothing?
It doesn't work. It's only imaginary interactivity. And everybody yells to each other, hurry up or slow down or brake, brake, brake. And people hate each other. But at the end, after 3 minutes and 27 seconds, they say, oh yes. And then they go out and they are happy. Because interactivity is, I'm very old-fashioned, really old-fashioned. And I tell you that I don't want to have a museum in which interactivity is very important. I want to bring families together. So we don't have an internet connection in the museum for the visitors, because we think otherwise mom is going to write her lover, daddy is going, daddy is connecting his work, and that's not what we want. We want to focus on children, children focusing on the father and mother, grandfather.
On the notion of keeping families together, obviously this IP and content is very focused on boys, it's boy-centric. I wonder what offerings you put out to be inclusive of the entire family, and specifically girls, little girls in the family. Have you addressed that, and how does your marketing reflect that, and how does that balance out over time?
I think that it's important to have the idea that we are masculine, firm, strong, but we always pronounce, in every line, it's for the whole family. And we are marketing in magazines for women, shopping magazines, and not the typical male journalism or something like that. Women can decide whether they come, and there is enough for girls and women to feel good. And we have a beautiful place, we have a lot of things to do. Okay, maybe they are not interested in trains, but I must tell you that most of Dutch people are not interested in trains. Whether they are a girl or a boy. Only when they have a little problem in the aspects of autism. That's really, yes. Nobody? We just started. I've got 4, 3, 2, 1.
One right here. Hi. Here.
Oh, yes.
Could you talk about what changes were made to transform the 2-person flight simulator into a 6-person train simulator?
Oh, it was easy. We just brought it up. We made it wider, and just as wide as that it could sit 3 chairs. That was all. We only used at the end only the screen, and it was a way of dealing. First, we wanted to have everything. Then we only had a screen, and we made a new train in it, exactly fitted for the chairs.
Thank you, Paul and Evelyn, and the whole team from the Dutch Museum. Fabulous. Fabulous. Thank you.